Next on Channel 6 News, thousands flooded to the site where the World Trade Center towers once stood. We will go to Liz Bishop live at Ground Zero. The solemn anniversary was marked in Albany in a ceremony at the Hudson. We will show it to you. And Let's Roll has special meaning for him. You'll hear from a relative of one of the 9/11 heroes. The news starts now.
Channel 6 News looks back at the day that changed America. This is a special edition of Channel 6 News with Liz Bishop live in New York City. Now, here's Joe Pagliarulo.
We've seen the images so many times they are seared on our souls. And remembering the horror, reliving the anguish, reimagining the terror is hard and painful.
President Bush caps a difficult day of emotion and reflection. From Ground Zero to the Capitol District and around the country, Americans mourned and remembered the day that changed the nation forever. Good evening, I'm Joe Pagliarulo.
And I'm Liz Bishop, live in Lower Manhattan. We're overlooking Ground Zero tonight, where there has been much stillness tonight after a day of somber ceremony. The events of the night have shifted away from here at Ground Zero to other parts of the city, including Ellis Island, where the president addressed the nation tonight. Joe?
Liz, most Americans spent the day reflecting on what happened a year ago and how the country has changed in the aftermath. That was the crux of President Bush's speech tonight. He spoke of the families of the victims and how they're coping, of children who were born after the attacks and who will never know their fathers, and of the nation's resolve. With a Statue of Liberty and a flag flanking him, the president offered reassurance to all Americans.
Be confident. Our country is strong. And our cause is even larger than our country. Ours is the cause of human dignity, freedom guided by conscience, and guarded by peace. This ideal of America is the hope of all mankind. That hope drew millions to this harbor. That hope still lights our way. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness will not overcome it.
President Bush has been in New York since this afternoon when he and the First Lady paid a visit to Ground Zero. My colleague Liz Bishop has been there all day to take it all in, and she joins us now live to show us the day. Liz.
And Joe, after commanding our national attention all day long, it is finally quiet here at Ground Zero tonight. All the prayers have been said and all the tears have been shed, and all that public anguish has given way to private grief at home. It really has been a remarkable day of dignity and heartbreak. The president walked hand in hand with wife Laura as he tried to comfort hundreds of heartbroken family members in a very open display of emotion and grief. There were hugs and handshakes, the laying of a wreath. A leader comforting his nation was just one of the many powerful images on this one-year anniversary. There was the sea of dark blue flannel as hundreds and hundreds of firefighters marched into Ground Zero with grim faces and their own memories.
Andrew Anthony Abadi.
The methodical reading of 2,801 names of people who lost their lives here, followed by the tearful tributes of the ones who loved them as they passed through the pit for the first time, leaving behind keepsakes and placing flowers, scooping up dirt, gathering pebbles, some clutching pictures, and all just trying to say goodbye. Albert Blackman of Albany says he still hasn't been able to fully absorb the loss of his pride and joy, his son Albert, an accountant with Cantor Fitzgerald.
I don't think that I've quite accepted that I'll never see him again alive on this earth. I still have a tendency to look at young black men about his age to see if just by chance it happens to be him.
On this long-awaited and long-feared anniversary, the barren 16 acres called Ground Zero was truly sacred ground.
They haven't discovered anything of her remains yet, so I really have nothing to bury. And this is the closest that I have to it. This would, as far as I'm concerned, would be her burial ground.
I have no peace, I have no closure. This is my son's cemetery. And that's the way I feel.
Mixed in with the ceremony and the tears was a stirring sense of pride in America. The stars and stripes were out in broad daylight, flying everywhere from rooftops to windowsills to hard hats. And if that was a sign of faith in America, so was the remarkable cleanup of Ground Zero itself. The financial district had lost a sixth of its jobs since September 11th, and First Albany's Hugh Johnson saw hope
for the future.
Sure, it's a sad day as we look back, but I think it's a positive day to look at how we've recovered from it and how the American spirit is just undaunted.
And tonight there is an eternal flame burning not far from here. Earlier tonight, Mayor Michael Bloomberg lit the flame at a ceremony at Battery Park. Bloomberg said that memories of those lost will burn with the flame. He called it a flame of freedom forever. The flame illuminates a restored sculpture called the Sphere. The battered bronze sculpture used to stand at the World Trade Center Plaza. We'll be back with more from Ground Zero. Joe?
We'll talk to you then, Liz. Thank you very much. 9/11 remembrances went well into the evening in the capital region as well, the largest at the Empire State Plaza Convention Center. Jerry Gretzinger was there.
Hundreds of candles burned in the heart of the Albany Convention Center Wednesday night, a source of light as the city remembers the dark events of a year ago.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
The observance began with the national anthem, appropriately sung by one of Albany's finest, Officer Michelle McDonald. Names of the lost scrolling up a large screen. The entire event, says Lieutenant Governor Mary Donahue, proof that America remains strong.
Coming together like this is not only symbolic, but is representative of why we know we have survived the attack a year ago. We're stronger, more united than ever.
The Albany Symphony Orchestra gave a moving performance of a piece written in the memory of 9/11 victims, and poet Joan Murray read a poem that she wrote just days after the attacks.
We glimpsed them through the rubble, the ones who lost their lives, the heroes' double burials, the ones now left behind.
More moving still, the hundreds of area residents, most of whom did not lose family or friends, but continue to feel the loss.
I can't imagine how you couldn't feel something. I don't know how you couldn't feel something.
So I said, I have to go someplace tonight to let it go. Because this, being with a group of people that feel the same way you do, it's a catharsis. It just lets it out.
As the memorial concluded, 43 additional candles were lit in memory of the state employees who lost their lives, lives that will never be forgotten, lights that will always shine. In Albany, Jerry Gretzinger, Channel 6 News.
They came together in Schenectady County to pray and remember the lives lost in the terrorist attacks. Among the worshipers was a relative of the man who immortalized the phrase, "Let's roll," as he and other passengers took on the terrorists of one of the hijacked flights. Gabriella Bruni reports.
A simple church in Princetown, a source of comfort for hundreds of parishioners 1 year after the terror attacks. The anniversary deeply personal for one couple in this congregation, Paul and Jet Brocious.
This seems like it's the fastest 365 days I've ever seen. It's just amazing. I can't believe that we're back here already at this point.
Indeed, a lot has changed since we first introduced you to Lisa Beamer's brother Paul and his wife back in February. The Brocious family is now 3. The tragedy of September 11th thrust Lisa Beamer into the spotlight as a symbol of strength for a suffering nation. Her husband Todd, one of the heroes of Flight 93. As Paul addresses the church, the loss of his brother-in-law becomes overwhelming.
When he walked on that plane on that day, a year ago, he was... He really was just trying to live his life like he had been up until that day.
Paul's words inspiring the congregation and his family.
They've done so much for us, so I think it's just, he felt like this was a chance that he could kind of tell everybody, hey, this is what Todd and Lisa are about, this is what we're about, and just have some closure.
Obviously, we've lost a very significant person.
Paul tells the congregation that faith is what gets his sister and family through the difficult times. Healing words for a congregation searching for answers.
I think the main thing that Paul and Lisa want is for the faith that they have to be clear to the world, because that's how they got through what happened.
Lisa Beamer grew up in Latham and moved from the capital region after college. Her brother Paul Brocious works at a local high school and has become a father figure to Beamer's 3 young children. Joe, and certainly took a lot of courage to get up there in front of that congregation, and the Brocious family have been relatively private throughout this past year.
Right, well, we were glad that we could see him up there today. And, you know, Let's Roll has certainly taken on a life of its own. It's definitely going to be a legacy. I think you're absolutely right. It definitely is immortalized by what he said that day on that plane.
Okay.
All right, Gabby, thank you very much. In Saratoga County tonight, a hometown remembered one of its shining lights, extinguished in the terrorist attacks.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies for amber.
They lit candles and reflected on the life and death of Diane Parsons. Once a month, Parsons traveled to the World Trade Center for the State Taxation and Finance Department. The last time was on September 11th. She was on the 87th floor of the South Tower when the unimaginable happened. Her son, Frank Tatum, tonight talked of how in the face of such devastating loss, he learned a lesson about human kindness.
On September 11th, 2001, I was very angry. I wondered, what is wrong with people? Why would anyone want to do something so awful? But in the days following, I experienced kindness and caring like I have never witnessed before.
In Saratoga Springs tonight, a solemn gathering in Congress Park. Hundreds came out to pay their respects to the memories of those lost on September 11th, 2001. Pastors read from the Bible. There were readings and reflections. Bells rang and flags waved as the community came together, united by hope and courage. A candlelight march to the Peace Pole capped a day of memorial events at Siena College in Loudonville. Hundreds of students gathered on campus tonight. Siena College was one of the community's hardest hit in our area, losing 11 people with ties to the college. Among them, Father Michael Judge, a former administrator at Siena. He died comforting a fallen firefighter after the towers collapsed. Judge was a chaplain for the New York City Fire Department. For one student from the Bronx, tonight's memorial was especially poignant.
My family lost someone at the World Trade Center, so it means a lot. It means that we're united, not only in nations, but also under God, and we stand together.
And in Clover, Columbia County, the community turned out to be united in patriotism and resolve. The service coordinated by the Rotary Club honored those lost in the terrorist attacks. It was also a salute to the men and women of the military who are fighting the war on terror. The remembrances continued into the night in New York. We're going to show you the role music played in marking this anniversary. And the state capitol held special ceremonies on the banks of the Hudson. The lieutenant governor, the mayor, and the firefighters were all there. I'm going to bring you what they had to say. Wall Street marked the anniversary of the terrorist attacks with remembrances and subdued trading. Here's a look at today's activity. The Dow Jones Industrials ended down just over 21, almost at 21.5, and the NASDAQ showed up down 4.64 at 13.15.
Now, your instant Doppler 6 forecast with meteorologist Steve LaPointe.
And you don't need me to tell you that we had a decided change in the weather today. Temperatures fell a lot through the morning and the afternoon last night. In fact, in the 70s, now at 57, with the northwest winds still gusting to 16 earlier today. Gusts easily 40 and 45 miles an hour. We should see the winds gradually diminish through the night. Look at the temperatures. Most of us now in the 50s. Some reports of 40s in the higher terrain, the Catskills and the Adirondacks. It will be a cool night tonight. Now, we do have a hurricane which is skirting through Nova Scotia. This is Hurricane Gustav. Gustav actually helping to increase the pressure gradient and cause the gusty winds we had over the region today. Quite a bit of rain falling, more as a result of a low pressure system that formed on our cold front over down east Maine. They're getting a good solid soaker there. It's been very dry, so that is good news. But this is all pulling away, and we do have a clearing trend working in from the north and west. Satellite picture pretty impressive. We'll show you Gustav as it races to the northeast now at 46 miles per hour. Clear skies from Albany on south and southwest. Still some low clouds, though, for the Adirondacks and Vermont. And a couple of showers have popped up again in Vermont. Let's check on instant Doppler 6, and we'll see those here in portions of Rutland and Bennington County. Some upslope showers, that northwesterly wind hitting the mountains and the air being forced to rise, squeezes out the moisture. So a little bit of light shower and drizzle activity in Vermont, which again should gradually end through the night tonight. Let's go back to the map, show you the forecast for tomorrow. Not a bad day. Coolish, though. Temperatures in the 60s to near 70 and still a bit breezy, but much less windy than it was today. High pressure slips a little bit further south for Friday. More of a southwesterly wind flow. Still breezy, but much warmer. Highs Friday look like they'll top the upper 70s and will probably be flirting with 80 as we move into the weekend. So we're cool now, but the coolness will not last that long. For tonight, mid-40s, mostly clear skies from Albany on south to the Adirondacks and in Vermont. Skies will gradually clear and the wind will gradually drop off. Northwest 10 to 15 by morning. For tomorrow, 67 to 72. Decent amount of sunshine locally. Adirondacks, Vermont, you'll tend to cloud up due to some instability. Breezy west-northwesterly winds 15 to 20. Tomorrow night, clear skies, cool again, low about 47. 6-day forecast shapes up this way. 78 nice Friday, 80 Saturday, and then it looks like a rainmaker coming in for Sunday night and Monday morning. Temperatures a little bit cooler then in the 70s. Joe.
All right, Steve, thank you very much. Still ahead, both the Yankees and Mets remember the victims of September 11th, plus the story of a Albany football coach still grieving the terrorist attacks 1 year later. Stay tuned. Doug, sports next. It may seem incredible, but the winning daily number drawn tonight is 911. That's right, 911. Now your pick 5 number.
Welcome back, everybody. The Albany football team is in the midst of preparing for this Saturday's home opener. However, football was only part of the equation today for one Great Danes assistant coach. Tim Mack explains.
1 year ago today, Albany offensive line coach Pete Rossimondo was busy preparing for the Danes' upcoming game with Central Connecticut. His older brother Nick was just finishing up a 24-hour shift at his fire station, Rescue 5, in Staten Island.
The call came across, the radios, and knowing my brother, he was probably the first one on the truck. Nobody knew exactly where my brother was at the time. I know that they were in the South Tower on the lower floors. That's pretty much all we know. And then we got the phone call at 2:30 a.m. on September 12th that my brother was one of the firefighters that were missing.
35-year-old Nicholas Rossimondo was one of the 343 New York City firefighters who lost their lives in the World Trade Center.
Certainly no replacing him, and there's, I don't think there's any moving on from that type of tragedy. My parents divorced when I was very young. I was 4 years old, and he took on a father role, and he was always the life of the party. He was telling jokes all the time. He was a great athlete, was a bodybuilder at one time, a hockey player, football player. He's just a person that was willing to help anybody at any time.
1 year later, Pete Rossimondo once again finds himself preparing for the Danes' upcoming game with Central Connecticut. He is not traveling to New York or taking part in any ceremonies. He is simply working.
Certainly will honor him and just working the way he did that day, and not thinking of, himself, just thinking of the job that he had to do. So we have a game to prepare for, and I'm going to do that. I think we'll always think of him, any 11th of any month, any year we'll think of him. I think there'll always be that empty feeling in my heart that my brother's not there.
Tim Mack, Channel 6 Sports.
Thank you, Tim. Pro Football Hall of Famer Johnny Unitas, known for his high-top shoes and flat-top haircut, died this afternoon of a heart attack. Unitas was a 3-time NFL Most Valuable Player who held most of the league's passing records at the time of his retirement in 1973. He led the Baltimore Colts to 3 NFL championships, including Super Bowl V. Johnny Unitas was 69 years old. Certainly there has been no greater cathedral in sports over the years than Yankee Stadium, and tonight with the Orioles in town, it was no different. Yankee legends Whitey Ford and Phil Rizzuto helped unveil a 9/11 commemorative monument out in center field during a pregame ceremony. Albany, New York will never forget, reads that sign in the Bronx, remembering those who perished in Manhattan. And then when the fighter jets passed over the stadium, the national pastime retook center stage. Alfonso Soriano homered in the 3rd for New York, and they have just wrapped up. John Vanderwall had the game-winning hit in the 11th for the Yankees. Pedro Martinez returned to the Red Sox rotation tonight against the Devil Rays in St. Petersburg. Martinez struck out the side in the 3rd. He pitched 6 innings, struck out 8, and allowed 3 runs. And he got the win thanks to another grand slam home run by Manny Ramirez. Boston wins 6-3. Elsewhere, Minnesota dumped Detroit, Toronto over Cleveland, Seattle lost to Texas, Kansas City beat Chicago, and Oakland leads Anaheim. Once again today, as they did last September and October, the Mets wore their commemorative police and fire hats. They played a day-night doubleheader in Atlanta. Chipper Jones was the hitting star on this day with 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. There was a moment of silence during the 7th inning at Turner Field, and then former Glens Falls Tiger John Smoltz registered his 50th save. The Braves beat the Mets in the opener 8-5. In the nightcap, Roger Cedeno got the scoring underway in the 2nd inning with a 2-run single for the Mets, which was plenty for Al Leiter. New York's ace stepped up big tonight with some help at shortstop from Ray Ordonez. Leiter fired a 6-hit shutout. The Mets earn a split 5-zip. Elsewhere, Pittsburgh knocked off Cincinnati. The Cubs down the Expos. The Dodgers defeated the Giants. Philadelphia beat Florida. Colorado over Houston. St. Louis over Milwaukee. And San Diego trails Arizona. That's in sports.
And going back a year ago, you know, it's a big remembrance for me that when sporting teams started playing again, then everybody felt like things were going to be okay again eventually.
And they didn't have any interruption this year. Just keep on going.
All right, Doug, thank you very much.
Yep.
Well, we're going to check back in with Liz Bishop for some closing thoughts from Ground Zero when we come right back. Now, one last time, we're going to go back to Liz Bishop. She's live in Lower Manhattan looking down at Ground Zero. Liz.
Joe, I think New York remembered this one-year anniversary with both great dignity and resolve today. I think we all wonder what it's going to do long-term to the hearts and minds of the American public. Obviously, it's galvanized a new American pride and, more importantly, cost us thousands of innocent lives. But I also think it makes us wonder about tomorrow. In many ways, the World Trade Center was the pride of Manhattan, turning the city's skyline into something uniquely New York. Big, bold, and we naively thought unbeatable. Today I've seen people looking up into the clouds, remembering those towers and feeling their loss. I think we all wondered what this day would bring. Would it peel back the thin scars that had yet to heal and leave us wounded again? Is there really such a thing as closure for the thousands of mothers and fathers and husbands and wives and sons and daughters who lost someone here a year ago today? And now that the day itself has come, it seems to me the sadness it brought has been terrible on so many levels. Once again, we were brought face to face with the loss of innocent life, and then of heroes dying to save others. And you look out this window and there's this big physical presence that's lost forever. You can rebuild the World Trade Center, but nothing will take the place in our minds of those 2 towering giants and all they represented. And I felt a sadness today for a national loss of innocence, knowing if it could happen once, it could happen again, and knowing that neither the world nor this country would ever be the same. So even though it's been a year, there's still so much to process, and maybe this day of great sadness and dignity helps us to do that. I think we all wanted to say goodbye today and to seriously consider who we are and how we should live and how much our way of life means to us. I'm Liz Bishop. Good night from Ground Zero.